So
Does that work?
welcome,
There we are.
welcome to Sid Inglis, Headmaster of Elstree School. Thank you so much for joining me the right way up now.
There we are. This is a first for me, Ty. So but I'm glad to be here anyway.
Absolutely. Well, no, we're delighted to have you with us. Sid, how's life at Elstree, and how's everyone been coping through this strange term?
Yeah, we're all in very, very good shape, but it has been a
Good.
strange, there's no doubt. And like lots of schools, lots of challenges, lots of things to have to adapt to, and lots of
Sure.
change on. But it's been strangely energizing, I would say, if I'm going to put a positive spin on it.
Yeah.
Just because what we're doing is actually getting back to what we've always loved doing, which is teaching children and getting them out in the sports field and getting them involved in music and art and drama and so on.
Absolutely.
To be honest, I think we adults sometimes sort of complicate things, and that children are quite straightforward about it, and they just love being at school.
Yeah. No, absolutely. That makes complete sense. And on the teaching front, what was your pathway, to both teaching and then becoming a head? What was your journey?
Going into teaching, well, I left university and then went to live out in South America, in fact.
Okay.
I always thought that I might be a teacher for some reason. And I went to teach English out in South America in a big sort of secondary school. It was a sort of British type school in South America. And before I went out there, I was playing cricket at Ludgrove and met Gerald Barber at the time, and he said, "Keep in touch while you're away. We'll see what might be on the horizon when you get back."
Yeah.
So then I ended about 1995, and then started as a sort of junior Latin teacher, geography teacher, sport coach, boarding, and so on at Ludgrove, and then sort of was there for 17 years, and then the last 5, Simon, Barbara, and I shared the headship there, and then joined here Elstree in 2012, and that's me. And we're very
history. Exactly. Actually, I'd forgotten that you did a joint headship, because that's rather an amazing way in, isn't it? I mean, it's quite an unusual situation, but I imagine it's quite a good first stepping stone to being a head.
Do you know, it is. It's unusual, but actually, it worked really, really well. And it's a busy job, and we've got to look after children, parents, staff, and so on.
Yeah.
So it worked very, very well to share that. And the heads sometimes say it can be a lonely job. So actually, to have a real soulmate to share that decision making was great fun. Great fun.
No, I bet. I think everyone agrees prep school is the magical years, if you like. From running from games pitches to orchestra, and from the classroom to play practice. How do you best prepare your Elstree children for the leap to senior school?
Yeah, I think it's a good question, because I think what prep schools have that responsibility to do, I think, is to sort of preserve. There's a great talk about preserving childhood and letting children do what they've always loved doing, which is working in the classroom and doing sport and music and so on. So in a way, there's an element of a sort of cotton wool nature of prep school world.
Yeah.
Then sort of senior school is deemed to be you need to be much more independent, much more challenging, and so on, bigger environment. So getting that balance between protecting the childhood and maintaining children enjoying all the lovely things that we do at prep school, but at the same time preparing them for senior school is a delicate balance.
Sure.
I think the responsibility we have, I think, is to give children lots of opportunities to do things, to try things, even if they may not enjoy drama particularly. Every child is involved in drama at Elstree, whether they're acting or whether they're producing the program or doing the lighting and so on.
Sure.
To give a little opportunity for everything, so that when they go on to senior school, they will know more or less whether they're going to go down a musical route or a creative route, and so on. There's an element of giving them that opportunity, but I also think gradually with each year, that sense of independence we have to try and build up, that ability to know how to use your free time and to know how to cope with being bored. It sounds silly, but the day and the week is quite structured. We know where everybody's going, and actually we just build up that independence, so that when they go on to senior school, where they'll have more time and a greater need to organize themselves, they need to be ready for that. So it's a fine balance. But certainly what we do is the feedback that we get from the senior schools is that our pupils are well prepared, they're good citizens, they're ready to move on. And that's the key. They need to be ready to move on. I think they're holding on to their prep school life too much. I don't think we've done our job necessarily. They leave us at, in a way, that perfect time where they're just ready to go and launch themselves on their senior school.
Absolutely, because I guess prep school, the idea is to give them a taste of everything so that they can then start to understand what they want to refine and what they, you know, the areas that they really love and that they're perhaps good at.
Yeah, I think that's right. And I think, you know, inevitably there are some children who will know exactly they'll be particularly sporty or they'll be particularly academic.
Sure.
Big number who just need that sort of to be incentivized to try things. And it just that one moment with one teacher, you know, on the clarinet, for example, might just spark a fire.
Yeah.
And that means they carried on as they go on to their senior school. And I think that's a lot of the preparation that we do is to make sure that children contribute and they contribute well and positively.
Sure.
Too easy to sit back and let things happen around you. And actually, if you can be proactive and you know, do all the things that are on offer, don't want to leave with any regrets. You know.
No, I think that's very true. And again, on the sort of prep school theme, today's modern parenting is super interactive. I think that's the nicest way to put it at times. Never more so at prep school. I think at senior school, for obvious reasons, it's slightly more hands off. But I'm interested to know how you juggle involving parents to the max when they want to be, but also, frankly, as you've touched on earlier with lockdown, actually getting on with the job in hand and the one that they're paying fees for.
Yes, I mean it's a very delicate balance because you know there's a lot of trust involved between schools, and you know we have that responsibility to make sure that academically children are well developed and supported, as well as all the other things that schools do, extracurricular wise and so on. So there's a great deal of trust, and I think that's what schools aim to do and try to do, is to build up that trust with parents so that actually they realize that I think parents really only get fully involved, if you like, in any sort of negative way, if that trust is not quite there. And I mean, we're very fortunate. We've got a fantastic parent body, and quite rightly, there are things that they will bring up that they feel we need to look at. But importantly, that great sense of community, and all schools are communities. And I think that key link between parents and staff and pupils, and I think that visibility of staff and that openness to be able to talk about issues, positive and less positive, is really key. I think one of the key challenges that prep schools have, though, is almost, you know, we can do everything we want with the children to prepare them for life at senior school, but actually I think it can be a shock for parents.
Yeah, definitely.
Being able to talk to teachers, to come to matches, to chat over match tea, to come to plays and concerts and all of those things. They get very used to that, and they build up great friendships amongst each other and indeed amongst teachers and so on. And then senior school is slightly different. They're still great communities, but there's less of that really close interaction between parents. And I think some parents find that quite challenging because they're used to being involved. And actually senior school, they are less able to be involved. But as I say, I think it's that reassurance that things are going to be dealt with quickly, whatever that is, behavior, work, pastoral care, extracurricular, all those things. If there's that reassurance that things are going to be dealt with quickly and effectively.
And before they become big issues, I guess.
I think that's right.
Yeah.
Right. And inevitably, we all, you know, if we've got to worry about something and we let it fester, of course, it all builds up. And actually, what starts off as a very small issue can suddenly be ballooned into something big. So if you start early, I think it's key.
Yeah. I do remember Jonathan Lee, who, as you know, is the ex-head of Marlborough and hugely esteemed. He did say to me once, one of the rules of thumb he always said to staff is never say yes in the corridor.
Yeah. I think
it's quite sound advice.
I think that's very, very good advice. Although interestingly, I mean, something that you know, we I encourage all the staff here to do is, for example, in the summer term, if the staff can wander the boundary edge or help pass around sandwiches and cake and so on at match team, often just a quiet conversation wandering around the boundary edge actually is, you're much more likely to get a solution to any issue than perhaps a formal meeting whereby you organise a time and you sit down rather formally. Actually, just having a quiet conversation on the touchline or the boundary edge is often, I would say, much more effective.
Yeah, no, I completely agree with that. And do you have a mantra for life or a motto that you keep in mind?
Well, I'm quite a fan of mottos, actually. I quite often use mottos to the children in assemblies and so on.
Yeah.
And inevitably there'll be mottos, the sort of kindness mottos, and make the best of your opportunities and all that sort of thing.
Sure.
Those are key. I think a big motto for me is, and particularly dare I say it at this time, is try not to take yourself too seriously.
Yeah.
If
a lot of adults could take a lot from that, I think.
Well, I think so. You can't laugh at yourself, laugh at a situation, and amidst the tears, perhaps. Yeah. But I think you've got to have fun, and actually, if you can make people laugh, and equally show that sense of being able to laugh at yourself, I think it's really important.
Yeah, no, I think that's a very good one. I shall remember that one. A hot debate at the moment is whether or not prep schools should continue to offer Saturday school. It's something that's been part of the weekly format for quite some time. It adds a certain structure, I guess. But I was interested to know what part you feel it plays in the prep school week, and whether you think it'll continue.
Yes, I mean, I think it is something that's being talked about all over the country. In fact, I do feel that it has a place. I mean, we from September next year, our Saturday school will just be for year 5 to 8. So our year 3 and 4 will be Monday to Friday, and our years 5 to 8 will be.
Okay, that works quite well. Yeah.
But it fits quite neatly just with the way that we divide up the school. Sure. I think the Saturday has a place. I think, as I said earlier, the schools are very they can be very structured, and each part of each day is managed very carefully. There's free time, but at the same time there's lots of structure. And I think that Saturday just allows the school just to breathe a little bit, not necessarily on that Saturday, but during the week. If you're trying to pack in all of the academic work, and if the schools are aspirational places, they want to aim high academically. And I do feel that by having that extra day on a Saturday just gives you that breathing space in the week to actually do the really fun stuff, the enrichment, the different hobbies and clubs and activities and so on that children enjoy.
Yeah.
And so there's also, I mean, we currently, for year 5 and 6, have a sort of Saturday morning, we call it our Learning for Life program. It's like an academic enrichment program.
Yeah.
And it sort of serves two purposes. It's that sort of building up children's sort of skills that they will need to thrive in the modern world, seen beyond. But equally, of course, it provides quite valuable preparation for the senior school assessments.
Sure. Yeah.
Which become a big thing. And so we do debating and interview workshops and academic enrichment talks and so on. And so it's building up those skills, but also it's doing that much needed preparation for the senior school assessments, which of course are happening now in year 6. So that sense of, there's nothing that can beat also a Saturday afternoon, big match day, lots of building. Lots of parents coming and watching their children play. Absolutely. So there's a lot of talk about it. I do feel it has a place. In many ways, we have to respond to our market, but at the same time, we have to believe strongly in what we do. And I think part of me too, that if you are a school, as we are, that sends boys and soon to be girls onto the sort of boarding senior schools, that 7-day-a-week boarding nature of some of the senior schools, and have that the need and the understanding of a really full week, it is important to lay those preparations, I'd say.
Yeah. Interestingly, as we've been chatting, there've been some comments from people coming through, which I'll just intervene occasionally with. And one of the main ones on this has been saying that they feel children thrive with the flex on a Saturday. And also seeing some old boys joining, which is lovely. I've just seen Christian Johnson, who's raised a hand and said hi. So
yeah,
keep
no,
an eye
very.
on that.
We've just said goodbye actually to Ed Hodson, who's he and Christian are two old boys who've joined us as gappers.
Oh,
Ed,
fantastic.
Ed is
Okay.
off to the
Oh,
out.
yeah, he definitely needs to be tuned in then if he's been with you.
Yeah, absolutely.
And Sid, if you hadn't gone down the path you have, what might your dream job have been?
Dream job.
Apart from superhero, obviously.
Superhero, of course. No, I would. I mean, funny enough, I thought when I was at school. I mean, I one of my teachers at Radley had said, "Sid, I think you will be a teacher." And of course, at that stage, you think, "No, of course I won't."
Yeah.
But it definitely resonated. And I always had a thought, possibly, of being a journalist, and particularly as a keen sportsman, a sports journalist. I'd love to work for Test Match Special and follow the England cricket team
Is
around.
that actually a job?
Well, exactly. So, but I think it's certainly being able to travel the world and do something you love. You know, I think that's a good motto for life. Is actually do something you love rather than necessarily something you have to do if you possibly can.
Yeah. Much to my my brother's horror, I was offered full MCC membership this year, having been put up by my godfathers 20 years ago.
Is
so
that
imagine, the horror that a girl has got in as a full member.
Well, right, Tyra, of course, quite right.
Absolutely. You touched on it just now, but obviously one of the main moves for Elstree recently have been the introduction of girls, which you started this September. I'm interested to know what cultural changes that offers the school, and also whether the boys have bought into it.
Yeah, it's been really interesting, and of course, made particularly sort of interesting, bearing in mind the current situation and so on. And it's important for me to say, I mean, the girls have been absolutely brilliant.
Have they? Oh,
we've got 31 girls in the school currently, and they are absolutely terrific. And I think one of the key things that we wanted to make sure was that we were sort of ready for everything. That question that might get asked us about girls and so on, that we were ready, right down to the games kit, the uniform, the loos, changing rooms, clubs, activities, and so on. I think there's always, we've always had a very strong emphasis on sport here, but I think, and that will continue with the girls. So the girls playing hockey, netball, cricket in the summer, tennis, athletics, swimming, and they'll get involved in all of those sports.
Sure.
But I think importantly too, I don't think, or rather I should say, we, in terms of the sort of art and the music and design and drama and so on, there's always been a very strong sort of creative arts culture that perhaps sometimes has, to generalize in the past, you might have said sport is very boyish and the girls all do art, which is a nonsense, of course. But I think that's what I love, is the fact that before we introduced girls, it was cool to read, it was cool to do art, cool to do drama. There were waiting lists to get into the choir, and so therefore culturally, I don't think we've had a huge change in that respect. We haven't had to sort of suddenly turn the boys into sort of different types, just simply girls are here at all. And I mean, reassuringly, the girls and the boys have just got on with it. And sometimes perhaps, again, we can overthink these things. And actually, fundamentally, whether we're teaching a girl or teaching a boy or coaching sport or looking after them in the boarding house and so on, you just need to look after them really well. And again, I think, so therefore, culturally, I don't think, not huge changes. Of course, we've had to adapt to things. We've got a number of female teachers on the staff. Many of the staff, male and female, have taught in co-ed schools and in all girls. So, and our pre-prep, of course, has always been co-ed. So in terms of sort of strategic change, big one, but actually simply really that the girls are now able to carry on through the prep school. Yeah.
And I guess the family element is enhanced even further, isn't it, as a result?
Of course, and we very much emphasise the family nature of the school, the community, it's a centric nature of the school. But of course, our girls previously had to leave at the end of the pre-prep.
Yeah.
We found ourselves talking about a family-focused school when actually the family were doing different things.
Yeah, sure.
Something that has become very, very natural in the way that we talk about the school, and indeed looking around, walking around the school and seeing the girls just getting involved in everything, has been terrific. And perhaps the fact that we've had to be in our different bubbles, in a way, has perhaps made that a little bit easier, so that the girls and the boys in the particular year group, so currently to year 6, they've been able to really cement good friendships within their year groups, rather than perhaps if everyone was able to mix with everybody, perhaps it been as easy. But no, they've been terrific, the girls.
Oh,
it's
good.
I'm
delighted. Great. You won't look back.
No,
and Sid, something that people that might not know about you, a skill or a hobby or an interest that perhaps would surprise your friends and pupils.
I'm sure there are all sorts of things, but I probably won't mention them here.
No,
rather curiously, I mentioned South America earlier on, and there was a group of sort of expats, Brits and Aussies and Americans and so on who lived in Santiago at the time, and there was a cricket team that used to play weekly and used to play matches against each other. And so I claim to have 2 international cricket caps for Chile. And so it's not quite accurate, if I'm totally honest, but it makes a good story.
Absolutely. Don't let the truth get in the way of a good story for any reason.
And it's also, you quite rightly, we know each other as Sid, but my real name is not Sid.
Right.
So my real name is Andrew, but I don't really respond to Andrew apart from family, really. So Sid.
So you picked up Sid when you were little, or
picked it up at prep school? Yes. So I'm a bit of an imposter because my 2 older cousins were nicknamed Sid at prep school.
Right.
And up when I was little Sid, and then it's stuck. So
yeah. Well, as you know, I'm Tyre, and I've tried to shake that off for a long time, and it's not going anywhere fast.
Well, right. If you try and shake off a name at prep school and say, "Well, you can't call me that," because my mother doesn't like it, it tends to stick.
No, absolutely. I also wanted to touch upon, I know that generally the role of a headmaster's wife is hugely varied. I mean, they can take on roles from the marketing department to admissions, head of boarding. They can be hugely involved with pastoral care, and very likely a huge combination of all. It's a multifaceted role. And I know that your wife, Olivia, plays a huge part in life at Elstree. I just wondered whether you feel generally this is a dual role, or whether you have a special and sort of unique setup.
I think, certainly our role here is dual. So Olivia and I very much sort of run the school together, and as you suggest, she's involved in absolutely everything, scooping up lots of small things. So it would be difficult, I think, to provide a job description, but almost everything, if you like, will have a touch of Olivia's thoughts and so on. And I'm very grateful to her for her support. But also, it's fun to share these things. We spend a lot of time together, both at work and at home. But I think it makes my job much easier. I mean, do I think it's essential for a school to have a couple, leading it? Of course, not necessarily. There are plenty of very, very happy and successful schools with just a headmaster or headmistress running it. But I do think, perhaps particularly prep schools, the sort of family focus that prep schools thrive on. Inevitably, I think that sort of reassuring presence for all parents, perhaps particularly the mums, but all parents, whereby someone who's had children that's gone through school, who can anticipate worries and nip them in the bud, chatting earlier. All of these things are key. And I think the children too, we have a lot of staff who live on site, and children and dogs and buggies, and that whole sort of sense of of family, I think really resonates with the children as well.
Sure.
So it not essential, but I think it helps.
Yeah, a huge asset, absolutely.
Yeah.
And speaking of spending lots of time together, I mean, how challenging is it? It is a full-on job. I know that obviously recognise you have lovely holidays, but how is it, and how much of a challenge is it to balance home life and being both of you so involved with running a school?
Yeah, it's not easy. It'd be wrong for me to say it's easy, but and it's a slightly different balance that perhaps heads in schools have, perhaps to a conventional arrangement of husbands and wives going off to different places of work and coming back in the evenings or at weekends. So
Sure.
it is very different, and it's not easy. Sometimes home life has to come second, even though we keep on saying to ourselves, we've got to look after our own family. So I think there's inevitably a bit of juggling of home life,
I'm sure,
and work life, and parents' meetings or matches and concerts and so on that our children have been involved in. Some we haven't, either one of us has been able to go or not the other one, which of course is difficult, but we're fortunate that our children have been very understanding about that. Say, we have lovely holidays, and so it's a different dynamic rather than it being better or worse, I think. But of course, it's challenging when you have your work life at home. So we live on site, or it's difficult to leave it. But at the same time, I can't complain. We've got lovely holidays, and even if you don't stop thinking about the job, you can think about it in your shorts.
Yeah, exactly. And surrounded by all the benefits of the facilities and amazing grounds that you live in as well, I guess.
Yeah, totally.
Just to wrap up, really, do you think there are common characteristics that you would either like to see in old Elstree boys and soon to be girls, or in fact are evident already? I mean, are there common themes that that connect them beyond life at school?
Yes, I mean it's easy to say it, I suppose, but what is lovely for us to hear when we welcome back senior school housemasters or registrars or heads, or catch up with sort of senior school people. What's lovely to hear, I think, what one senior school registrar said, that Elstree pupils are blissfully straightforward, and I love, a recurring theme is that they are givers and they're doers, and they're the type of children, or boys currently and girls in time, to audition for the house play, or go and support the hockey team in the pouring rain, or importantly, scoop up someone who's just on the fringes of a friendship group, and again, all schools will really try and champion this, and it's lovely to hear as a head that
absolutely,
who scoops up perhaps a weaker character and gets them as part of the group is key. But I think they're all individuals, and that's what's fun. They come in all sorts of different shapes and sizes and interests and so on, and that's what's lovely, is that you hear they're good, interesting people, again, perhaps who don't take themselves too seriously, who love being at school, and that's what that's the joy of what we do, is to lay the foundations before they go on to launch themselves on the world as broadly good citizens, and that's, it's very simple, but actually really important, really important.
It sounds to me as if you're giving them rock solid foundations for the future, which is, as you say, simple but actually incredibly special, and a great springboard for all that they go on to do.
Well, you hope so, and it's importantly, schools have got to be happy places, and you want your children, your staff, your parents to have smiles on their faces when they're in the school, and it's important to take the opportunity to, you mentioned right at the beginning the sort of this period and how it's been, and I think schools and Elstree very much included, the staff have been terrific, very supportive. It's been challenging. They've got their own lives to lead as well, their own families, and their commitment has been absolutely extraordinary. So it's important that responsibility to look after everybody, and not necessarily just the pupils, but
a happy staff and breeds a happy school, doesn't it? But
Yes, it
thank
does.
you, Sid. You've been very kind in a busy, busy lead up to the end of term, and
Not at
what an
all.
amazing,
All very clear. Don't worry.
not at all, an amazing insight into what is the incredible Elstree, and exciting times with girls. As a mother of 4 daughters, I'm very excited about your introduction of girls, and I shall watch closely.
Yeah, absolutely. No, it's been a pleasure, and well, we enjoy what we do, which is important.
Absolutely. Well, thank you so much. Take care,
Not
and we'll speak soon.
perfect. Good to see you.
All right. Take care. Bye.